So guys, you've been asking for a lot more old hammer content, and in this video we're going to cast our own metal minis using old hammer models. So guys, in the video where I paint up some really old hammer models that are older than me, if you haven't seen that video I'll put it in the hyperlinks above, but in that box there was some old Prince August do-it-yourself metal casting molds, some vulcanized rubber molds. So I thought it'd be a fun video just to melt down some metal and pour it in the molds and see how they look. Now obviously guys, there's going to be some health and safety breaches here, so I don't advise using this video as any tips or tricks on how to do it yourself. This is me doing it very bodge. I'm not using anything I should be, apart from whatever you call that for melting the models in. Everything else is a bit DIY, and I wouldn't advise using this video as any help. So if you are wanting to do it, Prince August sell the correct tools and everything else for you to do it. This video is not sponsored or anything, it's just some models and stuff that have been sent, and these molds are in here and I thought it'd be fun to have a go. Now I've got that out of the way, let's have some fun melting up some metal models. I'll catch you in a bit. So these Prince August molds, they look pretty old. On further inspection, they do manufacture some of these still, so if you check the website out you'll be able to find them if you are wanting to do this yourself. And they're not overly expensive, I think they're about £12 each. But what I liked about mine is the fact that I had some old original packaging with the drawn pictures. I really liked that. Now, rubber molds for metal casting is very different to silicone molds. It's a very firm rubber. It's very much like your car tyres. Now, I was thinking how I was going to hold the molds together while I was pouring the hot metal in them. And these was in the box with the old models that got sent to me. So I thought these would clamp together quite well. It wasn't very strong, and I think if I was to do this again I'd have like 2 pieces of wood with some rubber bands around them and just try not to spill metal on the rubber bands. But let's talk about melting some metal down. I didn't have any pewter. I did think about going to the charity shop and just picking up some pewter plates or whatever, but I thought with it being COVID I best just use what I've got laying around. So I had to rifle through some old hammer miniatures and just picked out a few that were popular or I just wasn't never going to paint. And I melted these down. Now the problem with this, I should have took the paint off because it's like plastic obviously. And as I melted that down, the metal did come away from that, so I just literally let the metal pour out onto my cooking tray, and that made a nice little ingot, if that's how you pronounce it, and all the extra bits of plastic and paint and crap and impurities in the metal I just scraped out and put to one side to throw in the bin later. Then I thought it would best prep some moulds for casting, so what I'm using for mould release is talcum powder. Once I'd gas myself with it, but just use a bit of talcum powder. This was far too much. Dust it around the mould and then tap it off. Talcum powder makes for a good mould release whether you're casting with resin or even metal like this, but just make sure you get the majority of it out and it's just got a fine covering. Now I've never cast with metal before, and the thing I was thinking is how runny should it be? How much do I need? All things I didn't know. So I used the little ingots that I sorted out earlier and got my blowtorch ready. This isn't particularly great because it only warms up one area, and what I actually did was this pan or whatever you want to call it, I warmed it from underneath to try and warm the entire metal pan up so it'd melt a bit more evenly. But getting a proper tool to do this would be far better. A soldering melter is very cheap, I think they're about 15 quid. But what I've done is I've just got it so it's quite runny, and then I just scrape all the slag off the top or impurities or whatever it is, and then I just get ready for pouring. Now my first issue was it wasn't warm enough. A little bit of stuck to the front of the pourer and it was throwing it over the side of the mould. It would have been better if I'd have warmed it a bit more evenly so it took longer to cool down. And when I first opened the mould, it wasn't completely cool, so things did break and bend a little bit. I should have left it maybe a couple of minutes longer. It was warm enough to touch, but the models came out pretty reasonable, and I thought, you know what, I'll try again, but I'll try warming the metal up a bit more, and I'll warm the mould up in the oven because the unit that I'm in is very cold and they've been out on a shelf, so they were more or less ice cold, so the metal was cooling down as it hit the mould. So I thought I'll warm the mould up a bit, that should help it get into the lower details. So I'll just warm the metal up for a bit longer, and then I tried again. The results was a lot better, and these was probably the best sculpts I got out of it. It did miss the axe on the first one, but it was the last one I poured, so maybe it didn't warm up enough in total. But I just kept trying and kept playing and kept getting better and better results each time, and I did enjoy it. And the best thing about doing it is once you've got quite a bit, all your wells you can keep and reuse them to melt down and pour into your moulds again. And it's quite a therapeutic process. I'm sure it gets boring if you've got to do it for a living, but it was something different and I really enjoyed it. And I've learned something. But I do need to fix the clamping of the mould together, because here you can see actually as it starts setting the metal, it pushes it apart and it bleeds out. I need a way of clamping this together. So I'm going to try a block of wood either side with some elastic bands or D-clamps maybe on each corner. But all in all, I do like it, and I am going to have a look further into this just out of curiosity more than anything. As in, I enjoyed it, and it would be nice to have a couple of moulds, so when you're playing D&D and you think, oh, I need a load of goblins, and you can just cast a few up, and then once you're done with them, you can melt them down and then cast some other models up that you need for your next game. They are the original 25mm sort of RAL Par 3 size D&D models. But I think for how cheap it is, it's kind of fun. It's something you could do with your kids, but I wouldn't obviously let them do it. But it's just another part of the hobby to explore. So guys, thanks for watching. This video was a bit different. When that box of old school miniatures came and I saw them Prince August moulds, I had a bit of an itch and I thought, I want to play with that. I want to melt some metal and pour some things to see what they look like. And they're alright. You know what I mean? There's no special. But it would be nice to have a look deeper into this and see. Prince August still exists, so it would be nice to see if we've got any more modern moulds. Maybe buy a bit of equipment and have just a play with it and see what we can actually achieve at home. I wouldn't advise doing this if you're a kid. If you're getting your adults involved, it is molten metal. I mean, it is low point melting stuff, but I won't want to get it on you, as in it's still hot. So do it outside. Don't do it on your worktop. Don't do what I do. Completely do not do what I've done in this video. This was just me playing around. But I have enjoyed it, and that's what this hobby's about, isn't it? Playing with things and trying things, and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, guys, if you've got any info and you know more than I do, put it in comments below. I'll have a read and I'll take it on board when I maybe do another video at some point. All the links to Prince August and everything will be below. It's not affiliated or sponsored. It's just I've used it, so I might as well plug them below. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to support me, all my stuff's below. So if you want basic materials, Scenics, whatever you need, glues, whatnot, all below, guys, at my shop, and that supports me. And also support your local shops, guys. So if you're in Europe, America, Australia, all the links to their stores will be below, and just shop locally. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again for the next video. Love, love, love.